Greetings. My name is Carl Hobert, author of Raising Global IQ, Preparing Our Students for a Shrinking Planet. It is a pleasure to be with you today as I introduce what I call the intellectual outward-bound case study approach to conflict resolution that can be used in middle schools and high schools in the U.S. and around the world. I'd like to start with a quote. Our lives come to an end when we become silent about things that matter. This was a quote from none other than Martin Luther King. As educators, as parents, and even as students, we can no longer remain silent about things that matter in this world. Yes, standardized exams in the K-12 world are very important. The SATs, the SAT-2s, the ACTs, the APs, even the MCAS here in the state of Massachusetts. However, we must realize that we're living in a shrinking planet, and we have to start to think differently about how we teach our students and what we teach our students, looking not just at the United States and U.S. history and geography, but being able to look at other countries and other things that are going on around the world. Today, I'll begin my introduction of a new form of curriculum and pedagogy based on my book, Raising Global IQ, Preparing Our Students for a Shrinking Planet. I have a new case study called Who's Jerusalem? It is a Common Core state standards-based case study that can be used in history and social studies classes around the U.S. and abroad. In this case study, I provide 4 chapters. The first chapter is a 20-page history of the Arab-Israeli conflict, understandable to middle school students and high school students. The second chapter is a timeline reflecting exactly what happens or what is written in the history section. The timeline works students through the beginning of the 20th century up to modern day. Examples include the Sykes-Picot Agreement of 1916, the Six-Day War of 1967, the beginning of the Second Intifada in September of 2000, all the way up to the recent re-election of Benjamin Netanyahu as Israel's prime minister. So that timeline or chronology reflects the history section and bullets certain important events through the history of the Arab-Israeli conflict. The third chapter is a glossary. This includes the names of important people in the conflict, important geographic areas in the conflict, as well as terms in Arabic and in Hebrew. Examples of this, names like Benjamin Netanyahu, Abu Mazen or Mahmoud Abbas, Anwar Sadat, now passed away, Yasser Arafat, now passed away as well. Other important geographical spaces and places that I place in here: Jerusalem, the Gaza Strip, the Golan Heights, the West Bank, the surrounding countries of Israel, including Egypt and the Sinai Peninsula, Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. I also include, as a 4th chapter, confidential instructions for each of 6 sides in the conflict. And these confidential instructions are 4 pages each. And by this I mean taking a class of students and dividing them into 6 small groups and having one group become members of the Likud party, the party of Benjamin Netanyahu, another group becoming members of the Labor Party, another group becoming members of the Palestinian Fatah Party, a fourth group becoming members of the political wing of Hamas, a fifth group becoming members of the Arab League, and a sixth group becoming members of the U.S.-led quartet. Each set of confidential instructions is 4 pages long, and it demonstrates very clearly to students exactly what roles they'll be playing as they move into negotiations over the successful division of Jerusalem. Obviously a very difficult, very challenging, very complex task. But the important thing to note here is, as students are arguing over 3 points in the division of Jerusalem, security, sovereignty over the holy sites, and settlement expansion by the Israelis or not, they're learning conflict resolution and negotiation skills. That is the ultimate goal. Although they might not agree with the roles they're playing, they learn to walk in the shoes of others. They learn to understand where others stand on issues. And in the end, the students, role-playing, must sit down together and write a 250-word position paper on the division of Jerusalem as a compromise statement, copies of which I send to President Barack Obama, Secretary of Education Arne Duncan, and Secretary of State John Kerry. In this exercise, students learn what I call the vitamin C's to prevent the cancer of conflict: communication, comprehension, compromise, compassion, creativity, collaboration, coexistence, and they learn to become, another word beginning with C, chameleons. Learning how to change in terms of culture and language and thoughts and roles, so that when they get into conflicts in their own lives, or they become problem solvers someday, they will be able to look at all problems like a crystal ball from many different sides. This is the goal of my book, Raising Global IQ, Preparing Our Students for a Shrinking Planet. And this is the goal of the case studies that I author. There is no political agenda. The case studies and teaching students how to role play different sides in these case studies is meant to prepare them for life. And I'd like to leave you with a quote. This was written by someone from Salzburg, Austria, to Friendship Among Children and Youth, an organization founded under UNESCO and based in New York. And the date of this quote, November 22nd, 1952. You young people should consider yourselves fortunate that you, in your impressionable years, have the opportunity to exchange viewpoints and ideas with those of a variety of cultural backgrounds. There is no better opportunity to acquire the lifelong insights that are necessary for the resolution of international problems and conflicts. In the hope that your endeavors have a lasting impact, I send you my warmest greetings and wishes. November 22nd, 1952, written to Friendship Among Children and Youth based in New York by none other than Albert Einstein. Is it important that we raise the global IQ of our students, our children, to this day, beginning today? Is it important that we teach them many different sides in different conflicts around the world? Is it important to teach them negotiation skills? Is it important to teach them how to become chameleons? I feel it is. Thank you.